I'm Pavan Srinath. This is my colleague Pranay Kotasthini. And we are here to talk about conflict that's happened between India and Pakistan. So just a couple of days ago, we had a terrorist incident that happened in Gurdaspur. A couple of months ago, you had a cross-border raid that India did in Myanmar, and then India talked about how perhaps cross-border raids by the Indian Army is one weapon against terrorist attacks that are coming out of Pakistan. And immediately you had talk from Pakistan about using nuclear weapons, about using them against armed forces, and all kinds of crazy rhetoric. So, is there a way to make sense of this, and where is the heart of the confusion?
Yeah, I think the problem lies because of the simplistic framework that we believe this conflict lies in. So traditionally, we've just thought that there are three levels of this conflict. One is the subconventional level, where we see terrorists used by Pakistan against India. The next level is the conventional war between both forces, and then the third level is a nuclear war between the two nuclear powers. Right, but this is just plain wrong.
So, you're saying that these three levels are too simplistic. How many levels are there? Why are they different? First?
Yeah, so the basic problem here is that the thresholds of both countries are actually different. So the conventional threshold of India and Pakistan is different because Pakistan's conventional threshold is lower, as we've seen earlier. It has used its forces with its terrorists much earlier against India. And similarly, the nuclear threshold is also lower, where Pakistan talks about battlefield nukes, etc. Right? So there is a difference in this threshold, and this gives rise to the fact that the three levels that we conventionally talk about are not sufficient to explain this conflict.
So, you're saying that instead there are what, 4 or 5?
Yes, exactly. So because of this, there are 5 conflict levels which exist.
So, walk us through them from the lowest.
Yeah. So at the lowest level, there is this the jihad under the nuclear umbrella, which we call it, where Pakistan uses its terrorist groups against India, like the 2611 case, and India responds with traditional intelligence operations, etc. Right. So that is the lowest level. Above that, there is the Kargil war level, where Pakistan uses its army and terrorist groups against India, and India responds in a limited manner, mainly on defense grounds, and it doesn't escalate the levels on multiple fronts.
Okay.
So above this level, there is the conventional war level, which we saw in 48, 65 and 71, where both armies lock arms against each other. Right? So these are the three levels.
So, this is what we usually see from what has happened so far in the past 60, 70 years. Right? But now that we have nuclear weapons, I'm guessing that there are possibilities beyond this.
Yes, exactly. That's where the other two levels come in. So above these three levels that we talked about, there is this level D, where Pakistan actually employs its battlefield nukes on Indian army, on Pakistani territory or on Indian territory. And India chooses not to respond with another nuclear weapon.
Assuming that this is a hypothetical case, assuming that India does not respond.
Exactly. So, according to the Indian nuclear doctrine, this zone does not exist because India follows the principle that any weapon of mass destruction, when used against India, will be met with a response that will be nuclear in nature. And this is what takes us to the next level, where there is a nuclear war between full countries on a full scale, and this is what we call a zone of mutually unacceptable damage, because India doesn't want this war, and we hope that Pakistan doesn't want it as well.
Okay. So what you're saying is that while India finds any sort of nuclear weapon use unacceptable, but nevertheless India has a fairly high threshold for nuclear weapons, right? It's saying that it will have a no first use policy. India also has a self-imposed moratorium against further nuclear testing and so on. So India wants a very, very high nuclear threshold, right?
Yes, that's right. So India wants to push its nuclear threshold higher, but at the same time, Pakistan's attempt is to push the nuclear threshold lower. That is because it wants to deter any conventional action, and because it sees that conventional war is the least preferred scenario for it. So it is trying to push it lower, while India is trying to push it higher.
Right. But on the other hand, India wants to be able to use conventional forces in other operations, for example, in cross-border raids or in air raids, to punish acts of terrorism that are coming out of Pakistan.
Yes, that's right. So on the conventional side, India wants to push its threshold lower to punish this, as you said. And at the same time, Pakistan wants to push its conventional threshold higher because it sees that the most optimal scenario for it is to use its proxies more effectively rather than owning up the acts with its own army.
Okay. So thanks, Pranay. So I'm hoping that this will inject a little more clarity into the conflict that is there between India and Pakistan, and also the rhetoric that ensues and why people engage in this rhetoric. I'd encourage all viewers to check out and read the whole discussion document, which will elaborate this in greater detail. So thank you. Have a good day.